What is going on, y'all? On Warren Cars, back again with another car buyer's guide. What is going on? Hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. Today we are going to be going over the Mazda FD RX-7. So it's going to be, keeping in line with our theme for the week. We're doing nostalgic JDM S boxes, for lack of better words. But in my opinion, the RX-7 is probably one of the best out of the bunch simply because of the value it provides. We went over the Skyline R32 as well as the Mark IV Supra. Those are kind of expensive when compared to the RX-7. Granted, the RX-7 is still expensive for what it is. It is still a Japanese 90s car at the end of the day, and therefore when you're actually valuing it on paper, these cars really don't make sense for the amount of money they cost. However, the nostalgia, the feels is what sells the car and is what keeps it popular today. So without further ado, let's get into that. But first, don't forget to join my Discord. This is where I post all the notes for the shows. That way you can always get that information and you don't have to be watching a video. Also, I do giveaways. If you're in the Discord, you have the eligibility to win $50. I probably do that every couple weeks. Yeah, shout out to Claro. He won it the last time, $50. Yeah, I'll show you right here. You can see I zelled him the money. $50. All you got to do is join the Discord. You have to like, comment, and share on a video, as well as subscribe to the channel. So, yep, just get that done and you can be eligible to win $50 on top of having a direct line of communication with me to answer all of your car questions. Cool. All right. Yeah, I was having some issues with Streamlabs this morning. Apologies because I'm not streaming on Twitch right now. You need Ultra as it's a payment plan in order to multi-stream, and I have Ultra, but today it just wouldn't let me stream on Twitch. It was saying you have to buy Ultra to stream on Twitch. I hit the buy Ultra button, and then it takes me to show me that I bought Ultra already, but it still won't let me multi-stream. So only on YouTube today. But yeah, before we get into the car, fragrance of the day, we're using Armani Code Absolute. Flanker of Armani Code Parfumo, whatever. But this one is a little bit more classy, a little bit less loud. Parfumo. It had like a cola note to it. It was kind of sparkly and fizzy and smelled like cola. This one's a little bit more subdued, a little bit more classier. It's vanilla sway, tonka bean, a little bit of citrus on the top. Very nice scent. This is like a huge bottle, like 120, yeah, 110 milliliters. It's almost done in like a year. One of my favorite Armani Code scents. Cool, let's go down to the cars. Yeah, let me get on to the features, options, and problems for the FD RX-7. Start off, it's the third generation RX-7. There was the FB, the FC, and finally here the FD. The FD was available globally from around 92 to 93. It was produced in 92, but sold in 93 to 2002. However, in the United States, they were only available from 93 to 95. I put 93 to 95 for the US models. However, since you can import these cars, a lot of people have actually started to import them, and you'll see that there are actually way more right-hand drive models than left-hand drive models for sale online, which is pretty cool because, you know me, I like right-hand drive cars. I think they're pretty unique and interesting. But yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to adjust this real quick. We're good. So just to keep in mind, so if you're not familiar with what makes the RX-7 so special, it is the 1.3 liter 13B REW 2-rotor engine. So it is a rotary engine, very different from a traditional internal combustion engine. It doesn't have pistons. It doesn't have a crank. Well, it does have a crankshaft, but it doesn't have traditional valves. It's way smaller in size. Yeah, and as you can see, 1.3 liters, and it makes 255 horsepower and 217 pound-feet of torque. So a ton of horsepower per liter with these cars. And only, you can tell it's a 1.3 liter. That's super tiny. And these power numbers were on par with cars that had twice the displacement. This car also utilized a twin turbo system, which was sequential, similar to the Toyota Supra with the 2JZ GTE. Similar system. However, this just has the differences is that this turbo system, the torque curve, so basically the PSI the turbos operate at dips slightly when there's a crossover. So when it crosses over from turbo 1 to turbo 2, it dips to 8 PSI and then goes back up to 10. Just characteristics of the car. As I mentioned before, competitors were the Supra, the Skyline GTR, the NSX, the 3000 GT, and the Evo. I didn't write the Evo here, but the Evo as well. 3000 GT and Evo, both from Mitsubishi. Both were kind of in a different class, but they both were competitors to the RX-7. 2,800 pounds. This car was super light, which is what made it so nice to drive and what made it, you know, actually fast despite its low amount of power. It doesn't weigh anything. Almost 800 pounds lighter than the Supra. So that you know, speaks to how it drives all on its own. And this is subjective opinion, but I would say that this car is the best looking out of the bunch in terms of nostalgia Japanese S-boxes. This one is the best looking. In fact, it's so good looking that it inspired the look of the C5 Corvette, which you can see looks very similar to the FD RX-7. Yeah, also they came in a 4-speed auto and a 5-speed manual. Unlike most cars, the 4-speed auto is actually the rarest of the two. Only about 500 models were made in auto. The rest are going to be in 5-speed. 5-speed was the standard transmission for the car. So let's get on to some options. Not too many options for these cars. However, the packages are what make, you know, is what you really need to know for these cars. There are a ton of packages. And the options really could be had with any package because the cars are so hard to sell. So starting off, we're going to go over the Japanese trim levels. There are 3 main trim levels, and then there are a whole bunch of other ones. We'll go over the other ones briefly, but I just want you to understand the 3 main ones: the Type S, the Type R, and the Type X. So the Type S is going to be the base model. Type R is going to be the sports model, and then Type X is going to be the luxury model, the top of the line trim. And as I said here, plus many more year-specific trims. We'll go over that in a second. And then for America, so this is only going to be for 93 to 95 left-hand drive cars. You had the base model. And for both of these base models, they actually came pretty well equipped. The base model had a limited slip differential. It came with cloth seats, ABS, VR-rated tires, AC, leather steering wheel, gear knob, and handbrake, driver's side airbag, cruise control. And this was kind of slotted in between the Type S and the Type X in terms of the base. So it wasn't a Type S. A Type S was super base in Japan, but the American base was kind of in between the Type S and the Type X. So kind of in line with the sports model, however, missing some of those sporty options. You also had the touring trim level, which had cruise control, leather seats, a sunroof, fog lights, rear wiper, as well as the Bose Wave stereo, which is something very unique. In fact, I'll show you a picture of the Bose Wave stereo in a second. You also had the PEP, which is the Preferred Equipment Group trim package. This came as equipped as a touring, except it did not have the rear wiper, it did not have the Bose Wave stereo, and they added the rear wing. The PEP Preferred Equipment package was available from 1994 plus. And then you have these 2 packages, R1 and R2. These are going to be the most desirable packages for the US model cars, and they're pretty similar. In fact, there's only one difference. The R2 has softer springs than the R1. However, the R1 came with a cruise control delete, sunroof, upgraded springs, Bilstein shocks, strut bar, additional oil cooling, suede seats, front lip spoiler, rear spoiler, and it can't be had with the touring package. You can get an R1 base package car. I think you can have an R1 preferred equipment package car, but I'm not sure. I know that it really just can't come with the touring package. You can't have a touring R1, but you can have everything else. And you could really have any combination of options. I'm talking about the leather seats. I'm talking about the sunroof. I'm talking about fog lights, cruise control, rear wiper, spoiler. You can really get that on any one of the cars in terms of trim levels. You can get on any trim level. Towards the end of the model run in the United States, they weren't selling any of these cars, so dealers were just optioning cars. However, if you wanted some option that didn't come in your trim level, that's fine. They'll just put it on at the dealer. No big deal. And yep, our package is similar to the Type R, so these are going to be similar to the Type R, which was available in Japan. Then, as I mentioned, you couldn't have R1 or 2 with the touring package specifically. Cool. Let's look at some of the brochures for the RX-7. We can see this is a USA brochure, which actually features no information at all. However, I thought it was just really funny the way they wrote this. You can see kind of like a Da Vinci looking guy up the top. Why should driving a sports car feel like operating a machine when it can feel like moving a muscle? Then we have some really good graphics here. I like how they put the little rotary or the little rotor here. I don't know if that's to mark like special sentence that you should read. We've made that dream a reality. By trimming off the fat, we created a sports car with superb response and control. Yeah, I'm not sure why they put the Dorito logo in here. But very interesting. Very low quality, if I were to say so myself. Yeah, probably one of the worst brochures. One of the how do I say worst? You want to say one of the better, but you want to say one of the worst. I guess one of the worst, not whatever. Cool. All right, this is an actual brochure with a little bit more information. However, it is still bad. Got some pictures of the chassis. Something specific that is with the FD RX-7 is, what's it called? You know, I'm sorry, I'm supposed to be the expert on this, but I don't even know what it's called. But basically, you have a rigid system that connects the transmission to the rear diff. So it's all one piece that just adds to stiffness in the body. Pretty cool. But yeah, we see that a big focus of the RX-7 was lightness, and they did a really good job. Only 2,800 pounds. The one problem about this car is that though it has really good driving dynamics, it's kind of small on the inside. So tall people like myself, I'm 6'4". I really don't have a good time in this car. It's hard for me to drive. My knees always hit the steering wheel, especially when using the clutch. Just not the most comfortable place to be in if you're a taller person, just to keep in mind. Here we have some of the options, or some of the specifications. These aren't options, these are, well, some of them are. So front spoiler and rear spoiler are obviously going to be options. Power steering. The tower bar, I didn't know power steering was an option. I thought they all came with power steering. But I guess not. I don't know. That's something that I would need some clarification on. Front suspension tower bar, rear suspension tower bar, audio system, auto cruise, instrument panel, air conditioner controls. Let me look this up. RX-7 come with I gotta look up FD. Nope, they all come with power steering, but you can put in a manual steering rack aftermarket. But for the FD, they were all power steering. Obviously, it's the 90s. They wouldn't have a manual rack. That'd be crazy. Especially for like a car like this. It's more like a GT. It's not a true sports car, so it doesn't really need a manual rack. You can see all the standard stuff these cars come with. I didn't really find anything in terms of brochures that showed the options. However, I did find a really good website that showed all the trim levels, Japanese and American. So we can see, you know, there's some information here, but nothing really too important for us. Let's look at the trim levels. So as you can see, a ton of trim levels. One thing I forgot to mention is that in Japan until 1998, Mazda, the Mazda RX-7 was not called the Mazda RX-7, it was called the Effany RX-7. Similar to Lexus for Toyota, Infiniti for Nissan, Acura for Honda, Mazda tried to make some other brands, but instead of just having one luxury brand, they experimented with a whole bunch of different styles of brands. They had, as you can see here, Yunus, Ifini, Autozam, Zetos, and Amati, which never even came to fruition. But I'm sure you guys know about the Yunus, which is like a more luxury, branch of Mazda. Ifeni was going to be the sporty branch of Mazda. Autozam was kind of like the cheaper side. If you're not familiar with the Autozam, what is it, XP1? AZ1, I'm tripping. Yeah, the Autozam, this is kind of like their key car. I'm not sure what Zetos was. I'm gonna look that up. Okay, so Zetos was executive. So what is Unos? Okay, so it means pleasure. So, okay, so I guess the Unos, I said it was more of a GT. Wrong there. Don't quote me on that. It was more to compete with the Miata, apparently. Which is weird. I didn't think it was like that, because I'm pretty sure the Mazda Unos had a 3-rotor. Oh, Unos Cosmo. What it... What? Okay, so Unos is marketed... I'm trying to see what they marketed it as. Unos was fun to drive, upscale, compared to the entry-level AutoZam. What? So what is Zetos? If Unos is this, what is Zetos? All right, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm going on a tangent here, but we do it live. Okay, so we're just gonna get this right from the beginning. Zetos was the executive line. Unos was an upscale. I don't know what, but so Zetos is gonna be the luxury estate. It's kind of CEO vehicles. The Unos is gonna be the GT cars. I'm gonna stick with the GT, even though it's compared to the Miata. The exclusive luxury brand, if any, was gonna be like a sporty luxury brand. Amati was going to be a cheap brand. Interesting. Okay, so tons of brands by Mazda. Ultimately, the the main point is that they all failed, and now we are left with Mazda. So really, all this doesn't matter. Let's get back to the trim levels, because I went off on a huge tangent there. So, as I mentioned before, in Japan, we have the Type S. This is going to be the base model. The Type R, one big difference to tell a Type R between a Type S is going to be this grippy suede seats, as well as the fog lights. And then the Type X is going to be the luxury one with the leather trim, leather seats, as well as the Bose acoustic wave system. We'll take a look at that in a second. I didn't forget. And then we have the Type RZ. This one is the 92 October version of the Type RZ, limited to 300 units. And then the Type X and S, or renamed Touring S and Touring X, if you had an automatic car. The automatic, as I mentioned, super rare. Type RZ, again, we have the Type R2, is a 2-seater version of the Type R. In Japan, these came stock as a 2+2 car. Unlike United States, they only came with the 2 front seats. The back was a shelf. In Japan, it was a 2+2. Then we have the R2 Bathurst, which is a commemorative model to celebrate the 3-year winning streak at the Bathurst 12-hour race in Australia. It had blue window tint, Bathurst decals. We don't really pay attention to these Bathursts. They're pretty rare in the United States. However, you'll see some, they're called Bathurst, but a really good way to tell a Bathurst is really if they have leather seats. So we have the RZ95, a little bit different spoiler. The Type RS, this replaced the Type R and had the RZ wheels and spoiler. Where's the RZ on here? Oh yeah, the RZ, similar to the previous. Where is it? Oh man, I'm tripping. RZ was the rare one. The RS was it replaced the sporty Type R, but had some of the RZ man, I'm losing the word, finishings. Had the spoiler, the wheels, and the Momo wheel. All right, anyway. So then we have Type R Bathurst, we have Type RB Bathurst, Type RZ again, Type RS. All these really don't matter. The ones you really see in the United States are going to be Type Rs. You'll see some Bathurst ones. And for the later models, you'll see some, you know, they're going to be Type Rs mostly. So many different trims. As you can see, the RS and the RZ and the RB were kind of the main themes throughout the years, and they just had similar, or not similar, they had minor tweaks for each model year, but you get the idea. And then down here, we can see the United States packages. And then here are going to be the colors that were available for the 94 and 97. So this is going to be the Series 6, I believe. Series 6 RX-7. We got Chast White, Montego Blue Metallic, Vintage Red, Brilliant Black, Silverstone Metallic, Sunburst Yellow, and Snow White Mica. The rarest one, they don't even show it here, but it's like a pearly white. I'm not sure where it is. Why don't they show it here? I know that for a fact that the pearly white is one of the rarest colors. And then this Chast White's the second rarest. But yeah, not too many color options here. I believe this Montego blue metallic is not gray. I don't know why it's gray here, but it is a blue metallic. And then sunburst yellow is also a really good color to have. But in terms of my personal favorites, I prefer the red and the blue. These are my two favorites. Let's see what else. Yeah, I think that wraps it up for the options. We can get to the problems now. There are some problems, but like most things online, they are blown completely out of proportion. So let's get that over here. So these problems I just wrote down. They're in no particular order. Let me just get them over here. Cool. So the biggest problem is going to be the rat's nest. Let me just show you what it looks like, because it's hard to describe without just showing. So this is what it looks like when you open the hood of an RX-7. You see all these vacuum lines and hoses going everywhere. There are 67 vacuum lines that you have to keep track of. You have to make sure that they're not brittle or broken. Any one of those vacuum lines is not providing the vacuum that they're supposed to will cause issues with the car. This is kind of a map of the rat's nest and all the vacuum hoses and all the solenoids. Very complicated system. This is why people get scared of the car. They open it and they don't even know what they're looking at. First of all, it's not even a regular combustion car. Second of all, it has all these wires and lines going around. You really don't know what to do unless you have experience. One of the biggest reasons why this car is cheaper than its its competitors. So that's the rat's nest. Big issues here. Just because you don't know if everything is fully connected, there's no like leaks or anything like that. So you have to make sure the rat's nest is good. 67 vacuum lines. The solenoids also go bad. Solenoids affect a lot of things. Mainly, you want to make sure the turbo crossover is good. As I mentioned before, it should be 10 psi before 4K RPM. Around 4K RPM, it should drop to 8 psi, and then after 4K, it should go back up to 10 psi. You also want to do a compression test, and with these cars being rotaries, you need a special tool to do the compression testing on this car. So you have to go to an actual rotary mechanic. Just make sure that there's at least, or not at least, but there should be around 100 psi of compression in each of the 4 chambers. There's going to be a chamber on each side of the rotors. So there's 2 rotors. There's going to be 4 chambers, one chamber on each side. So you want to test every chamber and make sure that all the compression is around 100 psi with no more than 21 psi of variance. So no more than 121 psi, no more than 70 or no less than 79 psi. So one of the big things about rotaries that set them apart from a regular engine is the fact that they actually burn oil in the combustion process. The oil lubricates the side faces of the rotors and just keeps the engine together and working right. You want to make sure that the person who owned the car before you understands exactly what oil they use. You want to ask if they added any additives to the oil. You want to ask how often the oil was changed. But most importantly, you want to make sure that they use the right type of oil. You can't use synthetic oil in a rotary car. The oil in rotary cars is meant to be burned. Synthetic oil does not burn. It just leaves residue. And so if you use synthetic oil in these cars, you could gunk up your engine and it just wouldn't be good at all. You want to make sure that the oil is on point for these cars. And it should be changed between 3,000 and 5,000 miles. Some issues, it's not a huge issue, but rust. Make sure the car is not rusty. I haven't seen many issues with rust in terms of these cars, so this shouldn't be a problem. The pinch weld seams, they run along the bottom of the car. Make sure that none of them are bent, because this can actually lead to rust. It allows water to get in those pinch weld seams when they're bent up like that. Usually people bend these seams when they are jacking up the car and not using the proper jack points or the proper jack itself. So you want to make sure that the pinch weld seams are straight all the way back. In terms of the temp gauge, these cars run hot. Turbo rotary engines just run hot in general. That's why a lot of the upgrades on these cars have to do with the cooling systems. You want to make sure the temp gauge stays right in the middle when you're operating the car. You want to make sure it comes up to the middle and stays there. You want to make sure it doesn't move around or have any play. You really don't want to be messing with the temperature on this car. It has to be in the right operating temperature range. In general, make sure that no burning or fuel smells. As I mentioned, the rat's nest is the thing that could be a source of leakage. You could also have leaking around the tank, leaking with the injectors, anything really. You want to make sure that there are no burning smells or fuel smells aside from the exhaust, obviously, but nothing around the engine bay. Some models have had have said to have a bad 5th gear synchro, so it's hard to go into 5th gear on some models. I couldn't find any information on what model year specifically that this entails, so just make sure that your car goes in all gears. And then you also finally want to check for the suspension. Just make sure there's no suspension clunking / excess noise, especially when you're driving at slow speed. Yeah, these cars are old. These cars are 30 years old almost. And so parts like these are going to be going bad after a while. You want to make sure that either the previous owner has taken care of it or that is factored into the sales price. And finally, in terms of tuning, a big thing that people do on these cars is porting the rotors, or porting the... You don't port the rotor, you port the housing. I'm not really too sure of the term, but you port the engine. You want to make sure that the porting is done correctly. If the porting, because porting is all custom work. It's not like you buy like a new cam, because that's what porting is. It's kind of the equivalent of a cam for this type of car. And it's not the same as just buying a new cam and installing it. You actually have to do custom work on the engine itself. You have to bore out the hole that is the intake or an exhaust ports. You have to bore it out to make it larger. Let me show you actually. Bridge port. So we can see this is what a bridge port is. You actually have to cut out this hole or add more holes, or you're making this hole bigger. It's all different, you know, parts of the bridge process. You can do a whole bunch of different things to get different outcomes. However, it involves machining this part. This is going to be the housing part. The rotor spins against this thing like this. And then, yeah, making these holes bigger / adding these holes on the side basically allows for more overlap in the timing, and you have like a chop basically, similar to a cammed you know, a cammed car. Let's take a listen to some of the sounds. I just want to make sure you guys understand how these cars sound, and they sound a lot different than regular cars. This is a half bridge port, so this is kind of like they did a little bit of machining, but not the full amount that you could do. It just affects just like the lope of the car, but we'll take a listen right now. Shout out to BJ Automotive. Did you hear the brap 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 brap? This is what everyone wants when they have a rotary car. They want this sound. It sounds pretty cool. Like at idle, I remember last time I saw an RX-7 that was bridge ported or half bridge ported. I don't even know. It was at a car meet. He was just doing this. He was idling, just rolling down the hill. He attracted a group of maybe like 50 people just come in to just listen to his car. But you'll see this is a half bridge port, so it's not as choppy as a full bridge port. We'll listen to a full bridge port after this. But this is like a half chop almost. We'll listen to a full bridge port. This one is a full bridge port. Shout out to Mr. Gabo124. So he's gonna let it warm up a little bit. This is what it sounds like at idle. Completely unique sound. Yeah, I just love that sound. It sounds amazing. Nothing sounds like it, especially when you're sitting there at a light or like in a parking lot just chopping. It sounds so cool. So that goes over the features, options, and problems for the FD RX-7. Next, we're going to look at some ads, look at some examples of what we were talking about. That way we can price them and see what we can find on the current market. So first, we'll go over Facebook, then AutoTrader, and then Car Gurus. Starting first on Facebook, we have our first example. This is going to be a 93 RX-7. This is going to be a Type R, it looks like, because it has a suede seats and it is right-hand drive. So it is a Japanese, a JDM market car. I guess that I just was redundant with that one. It is a Japanese domestic car. They don't say what it is, but it is a Type R. You can tell just by the seats. See what they have to say. Factory color is Montego blue, but it was changed to Royal Maroon. I believe that's supposed to be maroon metallic. And I don't know if this is that like a stock color because they put the paint code here. Maybe, I'm not too sure. We can see though, however, it says it starts in idles but won't pass over 30 miles per hour, goes into limp mode. So we have a repainted car that won't even drive right, and they are asking for $27,000. It is a manual. It's not an automatic or anything like that. Some of the feeders, what are the feeders on here? We got an Amamiya boost gauge, Momo steering wheel, Gannet door, titanium exhaust. 27 grand for a broken car, which is insane. However, it does look pretty stock under here. We got the stock air boxes and everything. We can also see it's a Type R because it has this strut brace as well as the suede seats. But other than that, not really much going on with this car. It doesn't run. It's been repainted. It has the aftermarket or the front spoiler option, which is cool. It also does not have a rear spoiler or anything like that. You can see looks pretty much stock. I'd say for this not running properly, I'd be around the $15,000 mark. And moving on to our next ad, we have a 93 RX-7 in Montego blue, one of my favorite colors for these cars. See, very clean. See, it has the front spoiler, also has a rear spoiler as well. Just a really clean exterior on this car. Let's see the interior specs, see what we're working with. We can see this is going to be another Type R. They actually said it in the description, which is good. But yeah, Type R, as we can see with the suede seats. Do they show the engine bay? Yep, as well as the strut tower brace we see right here. And also the cover. Not a bad example. 77,000 miles, not too many. But as I mentioned before, a lot of these cars we're going to see today are going to be right-hand drive. And unlike the Supra, which, you know, a lot of people say that, you know, American Supras should be worth more because the left-hand drive ones are rare. I just like the right-hand drive Supras. For this one, I definitively can say that the right-hand drive RX-7s are going to be worth less than the left-hand drive ones, simply because the left-hand drive ones are that much rare. There are so many right-hand drive RX-7s for sale. It's crazy. It's like 4 to 1 almost in terms of the in terms of the numbers we see online. 4 right-hand drives for every left-hand drive RX-7. This one being no different. They're asking 33 grand with 77,000 miles. And yeah, let's see what he has to say. Upgrades, it has a 99 spec wheel, 99 spec front lip. So this is that 99 spec front lip. We can see it looks different than the previous front lip. This one is a little bit more round. This one is a little bit more sharp on the edges. We can also see it has had new brake pads, new tires, new battery, and an oil change. So nothing really about the car history itself. So we have to go on what we know. It is a right-hand drive Type R with 77,000 miles. They're asking 33 grand. I think for me, if this car was in perfect running condition and was as good as he says it is, I'd be willing to go up to $26,000 or $27,000. Cool. Moving on, we have our next example. This is going to be a 93 RX-7, another one, except this one is going to be a left-hand drive model. So a USDM spec RX-7. This one is also in Montego blue with some aftermarket wheels. We can see on the interior, we do have a leather interior and it is in brown, meaning this is, well, at first looking at this car, it looks like a touring. Let's look at the outside. If it has a wiper, it is a touring. If no wiper, it is not a touring. I do not see a wiper. There is no wiper on this car, so this is not a touring car. It is a PEP, a preferred equipment package car. Very nice. Really not, you really can't go wrong with a PEP car. It has the leather, it has a sunroof, it has the manual, it has all the sporty stuff that the regular Type S has. Is that what it's called? Hold on. Give me 1 second. No, I said Type S, but I really meant base model. The base model is a Type S, except, I mean, the base is a little bit more equipped than a Type S. Yeah. We can see some aftermarket stuff in the engine bay. What does he have to say? Yeah. Nothing about that except we can see here Peter Farrell ECU, manual boost controller and turbo timer, and Peter Farrell upgraded intercooler, new NK wheels and tires. Cool. So we have some, you know, tasteful mods. They did upgrades to the cooling system, which is good. That is something that is pretty much imperative on these rotary engines. But everything else is stock. It is a touring model, and the tourings do command a bit of a premium. It has a little bit of high miles though, 105,000. Although the car is very clean. For cars like these, it's not really about the mileage, it's about the condition of the car, especially for the RX-7 because it only came for 2 or 3 years in the United States. It's really only about the condition, and this condition is really good. You can see no tears in the seats or anything. Nothing looks overly worn. The outside, the exterior is pretty clean. They did a pop-up light delete. You know, you can take that or leave it. Yeah, but other than that, very clean car. This would be something I'd look at personally. I like the touring. I like the fact that it is an American car because that makes it a little bit rarer than the JDM ones, and therefore the price is going to be a little bit higher. I'd say for this, having 105,000 miles and being a touring, I'd be willing to go up to $31,000. Moving on to our next example, we have a white car. This is going to be one of those rare model colors, especially for the US. Let's see if we see any interior. You can see it is a right-hand drive car, so a Japanese spec car. It says this is an Infiniti Type R Bathurst X in chased white. Pretty rare spec, which is interesting. It's really hard to tell these Bathurst models. We can see this is a 95 Bathurst X. Let's see if we can pull that trim level up on the sheet I had and see if we can find any information about it, because I don't want to quote wrong on here. So it's a 95, so we'll scroll to the 95 section. 97, we're looking for Bathurst X. They have a Bathurst X 96 model. Is there a Bathurst X 95? Yep. So it's interesting. This is what I'm talking about when people talk about a Bathurst model. Is it really a Bathurst? Is it really not? I don't know. The one thing that I see common in all these Bathurst models is that they came with a leather interior in red or black. This seems to be a theme amongst yeah, all the Bathurst ones. But every single Bathurst I've seen on Facebook has cloth seats or aftermarket seats, so it's hard to tell. Let's see more Bathurst ones. This is a later model, 2001. Let's look at this one again. Bathurst X96, 700 units, but had red leather. See, Bathurst X had red or black leather. Let's see what this car has. It's had a black seat. I'm not sure if it was leather or not, though. My nose is starting to itch. It's happening again. Let's take a look again. Not too many pictures. I can't tell if this is leather or not, y'all. I really can't. There's no way to tell besides that if it's a Bathurst or not. He says it's a Bathurst. We'll take his word for it. We'll take his word for it. See what he has to say. Feed front bumper, feed hood, Mazda speed side skirts, Mazda speed rear wing, ABS Model 5 wheels, HKS front mounted intercooler, Hypermax coilovers. My nose, man, it's doing it again. HKS cold air intake, Nardi steering wheel, Bride seat, fully adjustable. I wonder if it's real. Double din radio. So it has a black seat right here. I'm not sure if this is leather. It could be, but I can't tell. If it is black leather, then it really could be a Bathurst model because they only came in black and red interiors. However, I can't tell here because it does have the aftermarket seat. But going off of that, 110,000 miles, are asking 32 grand. It does have some good aftermarket parts, as aftermarket front bumper, hood, as well as Mazda speed side skirts and rear wing. I do not like these wheels at all. However, they do not look good. Not a fan, but wheels are easily changeable. I'd say for this, being a Bathurst X model and being a 95 and having 110,000 miles, I'd be willing, you know, this is pretty close actually, but I'd be willing to go up to $30,000. Cool. Moving on to our next ad on Facebook. We have one in what looks like sunburst yellow. Not too many pictures. However, looking closely, this yellow does not look as golden or as rich as sunburst yellow. It looks like kind of another type of yellow. Not too sure, but let's keep looking. See the interior, we got some aftermarket carbon, either wrapped or carbon piece center console with the suede seat. So this is going to be a Type R, as they say right here. See what else he has to say. 1997 model, legally imported through dealer, Blitz 001 wheels, Blitz blow-off valve, Blitz Jasma exhaust, Meister R coilovers, around 45,000 original miles. Nothing really else to say about the car. I'm wondering about the paint job. It could be sunburst yellow. We'll look at a couple more sunburst yellow examples. I don't believe it's sunburst yellow because it is more bright and dry. Sunburst is more of a richer, like yellow, orangey yellow, but I'm not sure. It could be the camera itself. Also has a Momo wheel. Very nice. 45,000 miles, very low for one of these. It is a Type R, so it's not a base model. However, it's one of the more common Japanese export models. I'd say for 45,000, this is pretty close. I'd be willing to go up to, let's see. Yeah, I mean, they didn't really show the engine bay, unfortunately, so I can't tell what we're working with. But if it is sunburst yellow, I'd be willing to go up to $33,000. This one's pretty close. Here we have a 98, and they're only asking for $26,900. I wonder why. I have an answer for you. Looking at the interior, we can see it is an automatic transmission, unfortunately. However, weird thing about these RX-7s, the automatic was very rare. Only 500 units made in the automatic transmission. Let's see what he has to say. Bone stock, ice cold air, sunroof works, automatic trans works well. Only 39,000 miles, just came to Orlando. So this is a very low mile car. However, it does look a little bit more worn than it should for that amount of miles. It looks maybe like it was sitting for a while. Yeah, you can see some wear on the rear seats, not too much. It looks mostly just sitting wear, like dust and stuff. You can see the front spoiler does have a little bit of a crack in it. I believe these were two pieces. However, they weren't supposed to be coming apart in the middle like this one. This one is coming apart slightly. Not the best cosmetic condition car. However, it is low miles. This probably was a car that sat outside for most of its life, didn't really get driven much, and was imported here because it's not really a spec anyone wants. Automatic RX-7, highly undesirable for these, especially because pretty much all of them came in manual. These automatic ones are going to be super undesirable. I'd say for this, only having 39,000 miles, I'd be willing to go up to $21,000. Moving on to our next ad, we have a 98. So this is not going to be available in the United States at all. They stopped selling these at 95, so it's a 98 straight from Japan. This is a Bathurst model. It says Type B Bathurst, which isn't a thing. I don't know what a Type B Bathurst is, but that's what they say. We'll see what it looks like on the inside. As you can see, it has the cloth seats. So what I believe this car is actually a Type R. I don't believe it's a Bathurst. The Bathurst came with leather interiors, and this does not have leather. It has the suede seats. You can see some upgrades under the hood. What do they say here? So it has an ATS two-way differential, an RE Amamiya front bumper and rear diffuser, Night Sports radiator and intercooler, V-mount, Night Sports intake, Blitz Nerf spec exhaust, Mazda Speed MSO1 wheels, Olin's coilovers, Sard Racing Team GT spoiler. That spoiler is enormous, and an Apexi Power FC. You can see underneath, I was talking about the rust for these cars. They don't rust really at all. As you can see, it looks very clean on the underside of this car. You can see these are going to be those Mazda Speed MSO1 wheels. They look pretty good, but I do think that they could use a little bit more dish and a little bit more meat on the sidewalls. But other than that, not too bad. This Night Sports, oh no, this is Amamiya front bumper and rear diffuser. Looks insane. See what the rear diffuser looks like. You can't even see it, but you can tell it has curvy parts on the outside. Pretty cool. You can also see this is the updated, the facelifted model of the car, because it has the round tail lights, as well as having this big 99 style bumper. This is a 98, so I'm not sure if they put this on aftermarket, or it was just a late model 98, which came as a 99 basically. But these are going to be the 99 style front bumper. You'll see the big secondary lights when compared to the regular OEM, not OEM, but the OG style. You can see the lights are small and round, and these ones are going to be big and angular. A lot of people upgrade their bumpers to have 99 style bumpers, but you know, it's just keep that in mind when you're looking at these cars. None of the US cars are going to have this bumper stock. However, a lot of people put them on aftermarket. And moving on finally to our last ad on Facebook, we have a 98 RX-7. This one has 75,000 miles, and this one is in an actual sunburst yellow. It looks like, see, it looks, yeah, a little bit more rich than this other yellow. However, I can't really tell off these pictures. It could even be a filter on the camera. This one still looks yellow. However, this one just looks a little bit more yellow. You guys are gonna have to, you know, decide that yourself. You can see this is an RSR 30th anniversary edition, super rare. Let's see what he has to say about the 98 RSR on our trim sheet. So the 98 RSR right here. So limited edition to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Mazda's rotary engine. Only 500 were built based on the Type RS with RZ Bilstein shocks, chrome rings on the instrument gauges, special cloth trim, alloy passenger footrest, a driver knee pad, and colors were sunburst yellow or brilliant black with dark gray wheels. As we can see, this is exactly what this car is. It's on aftermarket wheels, but it is in sunburst yellow with the cloth interior. This doesn't have the cloth footrest that this is talking about as a metal one. That probably was changed. Let's see what he has to say in the description. 1 of 500 RSR 30th anniversary in sunburst yellow. It has tastefully modded. The car is powered by a single turbo, fresh built Bridgeport 13B motor. So this has the brat brat chop style sound. Amazing. It also is single turbo, which is great. I wonder how much power it makes. 65,000 OBO is what they're asking for a fully built, very rare car. You know, this car, because it is a 98 RSR, let's see what the front bumper looks like. We can see it is a 98. However, we can see it is a 98 and it has a true 98 front bumper. It does not have a 99 style bumper with the bigger secondary lights. It has the OG style front bumper with the small lights. But this is exactly what people want in terms of an RS7. But this is exactly what people want in terms of an RX-7. They want one that's been ported. They want one that's single turbo. They want one that's been built. They want one in a rare color. Obviously, they wanted it manual. And obviously, they wanted it very clean like this one. So this is like a perfect example of something to look for. If you really were shopping for one of these and you really had no budget, like you could spend anything, this would be perfect. I think for something with this much work, has been ported, and is low-ish miles. The miles aren't that low, but it's at 75,000. I'd be willing to go up to $45,000 for this car. Just simply because of the mods and the mileage and the fact that it is a 1 out of 500 RSR. Cool. Let's move on to Auto Trader. Our first ad on Auto Trader Classic. We have a 96 RX-7 in white. Looks fairly stock. You can see the fog lights. Let's see what the interior spec is. We can see this is a Type R because it has the suede seats. And it is an automatic. So this is not a Type R. This is a Touring. Oh, man, I can't remember. So they changed the name from the Type to Touring X. So I believe this was a Touring R. Where does this say? Yep. No, they don't have that. It's just Touring S and Touring X. Yeah, so this is literally an R with an automatic transmission. Or it could be an S with some suede seats. I'm not sure, but that doesn't make any sense because I don't think the R being a sporty model came with the automatic transmission. But as I mentioned before, Mazda had a hard time selling these, so they really optioned them however you wanted. It didn't really matter. Like if you wanted sport seats with an auto transmission, it wasn't on paper, but they do it for you if you ask them. This one looks like one of those. Yep, you can see it is a Type R because it has the strut brace as well as having the suede seats. However, it does have an automatic transmission. One of the rare Type R RX-7s with an automatic. But as we can see, it exists. Underside looks pretty good as well. You don't see any big piece of rust besides on the exhaust, which is, you know, typical for an exhaust. How many miles did it have? 50,000 miles. They want $37,000 for it. I hate to break it to them, but they are way off. This is an automatic RX-7, super undesirable. It has 50,000 miles. Though it is a Type R, I wouldn't suggest paying over $25,000 for this car. Moving on, we have a midnight blue RX-7. It's going to be a 94 model. Very clean. You can see it has the front splitter option. This is going to be the OG style, not the updated one with the thinner front splitter. This is the old style front splitter. Let's see what other options it has. No fog lights, no rear wiper or anything. You can see this is a Type S car. It's going to be a base model car. Actually, because this is a base model car, the automatic, before I say all that, this is a left-hand drive car, so it's not a Type S or Type R or anything. This is a base model US spec RX-7 with an automatic. Super rare, as I mentioned before. Yeah, they barely ship. Only 500 were ever produced with an automatic. This is one of them, and it's a US spec car, which makes it even more rare. And what also makes it even more rare is that it's a base model. So completely base spec car, cloth seats, automatic, no options. It has the front spoiler, but that's it. Doesn't even have fog lights, no sunroof or anything. It's a completely base car, but it's even more base than it should be with the automatic transmission. I'd say being that base and having almost 40,000 miles, I'd be willing to go up to $27,000. Then moving on to our final example, our most expensive one on AutoTrader, but not our most expensive thus far. We can see we have a 93. This is going to be a left-hand drive car, and we can already tell off the bat it has a red leather interior as well as fog lights. Looking at the back, we can also see it as a wiper. So what does that mean? That means this is a touring spec car. The top of the line trim spec for the United States market. The top of the line trim spec for the United States market. And this is a really good example. Silver on red, super desirable, really rare. It also came with the sunroof, not a glass sunroof, but it has a sunroof option. Some cars actually came with a glass sunroof. Interesting, right? You can see because it is a touring, it also has the Bose Wave stereo system, one of the most interesting stereo systems ever produced. You can see Bose written right here, and these plastic pipes in which the sound traveled to. Apparently the way the pipes were formed created some sort of unique special musical experience. I don't know. I've never heard a Bose Wave sound system before. And you know, a lot of people took them out of the trunk because they took up some space. And you know, as audio technology went on, you know, there were a lot better systems that weren't as complicated or as expensive or as hard to fix as the Bose Wave system. But this one has the original Bose Wave system, as you can see. Very interesting. These are going to be your speaker holes, but the sound actually comes from somewhere down deep in here, and it bounces off the pipes. I don't know. But very unique spec. As I mentioned, touring with the manual and a red leather interior. This one is going to be super desirable, super rare as well. Not many people spec'd their RX-7s to be this nice. And this shows with the price. How many miles? 40,000 miles, and they want 80 grand for it. Being this super rare spec, and having only 40,000 miles and being a left-hand drive car, I really couldn't go over $50,000. And that is the top of the line. I don't recommend paying any more than $50,000 for an RX-7 unless it's like super built, but a stock one, yeah, 50 grand. Other than that, man, there's other examples that you can find. Moving on to car gurus, we have a first example. This is going to be a left-hand drive car in the blue color, Montego blue. We can see that it has the sunroof, no rear wiper though. I can't tell if it has fog lights from that picture or not, but looking at the interior, we can see that it is a base car. We don't have any suede seats. We don't have any leather seats. We have the regular cloth seats. So this is going to be a base spec car. However, it is a base spec with a sunroof, which is interesting, as well as the front lip spoiler. Nothing going on in the rear though, however. It also looks like it's been lowered a little bit, but I'm not too sure. Let's see what he has to say about the car. So absolutely nothing at all. Thanks. Moving back up to the pictures. I can see the engine bay looks very stock as well. Just a very stock, clean example. Emphasis on clean. This is one of the cleanest ones we've seen so far. How many miles did it have? So it was a 1.3 liter. And something that this mentions right here, which is the only place it mentions it, it says it's an R2 car. So what that means, I'll just bring it up again so I can read it directly off of the thing. But an R2 car has basically the R1 upgrades with a softer spring package. So the R1 is the track package that added the rear spoiler, front air dam, dual oil coolers, a stiffer suspension setup, ZR rated tires, and a front strut tower brace. So it says it's an R1 package, or it says it's an R package. It says it's an R2 specifically, but the R2 is the same as the R1 except with softer springs. The R1 package was a little bit too hardcore for the American audience, so they actually came with the R2 in 1994, which had softer springs. However, I'm going to be looking for specific things to see if it's a real R1. Mainly, I'm looking for let's see what it says over here. I'm looking for the front and rear spoiler. I'm looking for the front strut tower brace. Yep. So I'm looking for the front strut tower brace. I'm looking for the it doesn't have a rear spoiler, but does it have the brace? No brace, no spoiler. I don't believe this is a real R1 car or R2 car. I believe they lied. Yep, unfortunately, I don't think it's a real R2 car. Simply, there are no brace, there's no spoiler, and it has, you know, you could get an R package for the base model car. So the cloth seats really don't mean anything, but it doesn't have a spoiler. Does it show the trunk at all? One thing I'm looking for is maybe some fill holes to see if they actually had a spoiler there at one point, but they did a spoiler delete. But I don't see anything. And then there's no tower brace either, so I do not believe this is in our car. Pricing it as a regular 94 base model with 83,000 miles, I'd say I'd be willing to go up to 32 grand for this car. Moving on, we have a red example. This is going to be a red 93, what looks like a touring package car, because we do have fog lights, we do have leather seats, and we do have a rear wiper. So touring package car off the bat. Let's see what the interior looks like. As I mentioned, leather interior. We can see full leather on the doors as well as on the seats. Back seats are not there because it is a US spec car. US spec cars did not come with the back seats. You can see it is a very clean example. How many miles did it have? Only 41,000 miles. We can see that it also says it's an R2 in terms of the engine. However, we both know, however, we all know that this did not come with an R2 package. This is a touring car. Touring cars could not come with the R package in the United States, and it is a left-hand drive car, so it is a United States car, and therefore it could not come with the R package. Let's see what other things they have to say about the car. Absolutely nothing. Thanks for that. But other than that, this is one of the cleanest examples we've seen so far. Red on tan is a super desirable, super rare color combo. We can also see the Bose acoustic speaker system in the trunk. Engine bay looks very clean. No strut tower brace, but this is a touring, so they didn't come with one. Very clean example. One of the cleanest examples we've seen so far. They want 58 grand for it, and it has 41,000 miles. Since it's so clean, since it is a touring with the Bose Wave audio still installed, since it has a super desirable color combo, red on tan, and because the mileage is semi-low at 41.6, I'd be willing to go, I'd be willing to go up to $41,000 for this car. This is a nice one. This one is one that you should probably look into if you want literally the nicest RX-7 you can find. This spec is just so good. Here we have another 93. This one is going to be, so here we have another 93 model. This one is going to have a ton of aftermarket upgrades, as we can see. Right off the bat, we can see it has a 99 style front bumper with the big secondary lights. We can see that it is more than likely going to be a type. Hold on. I just lost my whole train of thought there. So in the United States, the ones that came with the tower brace are going to be the R1 package cars. So the R package cars come with the tower brace. This one has a tower brace. It is also his left-hand drive, but is also a leather car. Does it have a rear wiper? No rear wiper, but he has a ton of paperwork for this car. Gosh, that's a lot of work. So it is a leather car, but it does not have a rear wiper. It doesn't look like. All these pictures are of the front of the car, which is annoying. Can we see the rear of the car, please? I don't see a rear wiper here. No rear wiper, but it has leather seats. So this is going to be a PEP car, preferred equipment group. What's my thoughts on Cars and Bids? Cars and Bids is great. I don't have anything bad to say about Cars and Bids. This one of the only places you can buy modified cars in auction style. The only thing I really maybe have a problem with is the scrutiny in which you're allowed to post on there. You know, Doug, I don't know if he still hand reviews or hand picks the cars that are going to be on the website, but sometimes he denies cars for just being a little bit too rough, or the condition might not be up to, hey, what's good, DJ Inferno? How you doing, man? But yeah, some of the cars might not be up to his, you know, level of, I don't know. They might not be up to his par, his standards, so that he denies cars. That's the only thing I don't like about Cars and Bids, is that if you're gonna have a platform like that, like, you don't deny cars, you know, like, just have everything on there. Cheap auctions are good. The quality is good though. I mean, like, I'd say that's the reason why he denies cars, to keep the quality up. But like, I do want to find, like, there, maybe that's what I should do or something like that. A place where it's like the lower tier custom cars, stuff like literal projects. A marketplace for literal projects would be something that I'd be more interested in, because you can find actual deals there. You do find actual deals on Cars and Bids. However, if it's a high profile car, something that's known in the community, you're going to be in a bidding war that's going to be highly publicized and probably not to your best financial advantage. But I do see a lot of cars that go under the radar on Cars and Bids all the time that sell for really good numbers. But, you know, it's an auction, so you really don't know. So what we have here is a PEP car, or preferred equipment package car. Has a leather interior, no sunroof. Has a leather interior, no rear wiper. However, it does have the strut tower bar, so it could be an R1 car, or it could just have this added aftermarket. We don't know. There's no really other way to tell besides some paperwork, which he really doesn't provide. We can see how much power he's making. So he's making 351 power at the engine. So that's pretty good. Torque, yeah, 287 at the engine. So it's doing some good numbers, running pretty well. Let's see what he has to say. So finally, a really good description. Good job. So let's see what he has to say about it. It has a 0.81 air fuel ratio, a 65/60 turbo, fully rebuilt engine, 64 millimeter billet ball bearing. Oh no, I just read the same thing twice. It has a boost gauge, digital temp, 8 pillar gauges, OEM gauge cluster upgraded, new capacitors, deleted, or ABS delete, replace the oil catch can. Ton of work done on this car. Not only mechanical, but exterior as well. We can see, I mean, we can see all the work he's done to this car. He has little piles of paperwork that he's taken many pictures of, because he's very proud of all the work that has been done. Yeah, he's put 4 pictures of his paperwork in this ad. So this car has a ton of aftermarket and cosmetic upgrades and options. Really is very far from what it used to be in terms of its trim level. It's its own car at this point. They want 70 grand for this fully built car with 122,000 miles at least on the body. I'd say that's way too much. Obviously, 70 grand is way too much money for a 30-year-old, almost 40-year-old car. No, it's 30. Yeah, it's 30. I'm tripping. 30-year-old car. Anyway, I'd say for this, I'd be willing to go up to 40 grand. I wouldn't go up to higher than that. 40 grand is where I'd be at for this project of a car. Even though it's probably a really good running example of a project, it's still a project, and you can't trust those, even with piles of paperwork like this. More like 33K. I mean, I'm just going off this build. If it was a little bit less built, yeah, it would be a lot less. The miles are super high, but you know, it's a good build. I do see a lot of like high quality parts in this build. So 33 to 40K, you know, if you're at 33, that's cool too. And moving on to our final example. This is a 93 with 33,000 miles. And off the bat, we're looking at this car. It looks pretty base, right? We see that it has a strut tower bar. Let's see if it's a left-hand drive. It is a left-hand drive. What does that mean? That means this is a R car. So looking at the seats, do we see what the seat material is? We see the seat material is the suede. So this is going to be a an R. Man, I can't even remember what. There's so many trim packages for this. Give me 1 second. What's up? So what came with the suede seats? That's what I'm trying to figure out in the United States for left-hand drive. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense to me. I can't tell which car, like the United States cars did not have the cloth seat. I guess these are just cloth, but no, these are suede seats. So maybe those were the R package cars. Maybe that was an R package thing where suede seats, because obviously the Type R did come with suede in Japan. So the R package for the United States might have suede seats. But this is an R package car if you didn't know already. It has the front tower brace. It has suede seats. It has the spoiler. It has the front lip spoiler as well as the rear spoiler. Very desirable version of the car. In fact, this is the most desirable version of the car in the United States. Any R car, this is going to be a 93, so it's going to be an R1, not an R2. So this is actually going to be the most race-oriented RX-7 to ever come to the United States. It is on the R1 springs, which are stiffer than the R2. People really thought that the R1 was way too hardcore, and so they came up with the R2 in 1994, which had softer springs. That was the only difference between the two. But this is a genuine R1 car, and the price reflects it. It only has 33,000 miles, so a low mile R1 car. This being an R1 car, you know, obviously gives it a little bit of a premium. And yeah, I mean, I'd have to pay a little bit more than what I want to for something like this to get into an R. I'd say for this, I'd be around the, it has really low miles. I'd be around the $48,000 mark. And that wraps it up for the ads for today. We went through 15 ads on Facebook, Auto Trader, and Car Gurus. If I were to make a suggestion in terms of which car to buy, I'd just say stick with the right-hand drive Japanese market cars. Try to get a Type R. Those are going to be the most common. You can find them for pretty good prices, and they're going to be way cheaper than the American market cars. Granted, they're going to be right-hand drive, so a little bit more inconvenient in terms of daily drivability. However, it makes up for that with just being a lot more cool. People are going to come to you and ask you more questions about it. It's right-hand drive. People are going to find it really interesting. In terms of model year, it really doesn't matter for these cars. Aside from getting a 99 plus, which have a different front bumper, 92 to 98 are going to be pretty much all the same. It just matters on what trim level you get. I suggest staying away from the base model cars with the base model seats. Try to get a Type R or basically any car with suede seats or any car with leather seats. Just stay away from the cloth. Stay away from the autos. Although they're rare, this is one of those cases where rarity doesn't add to value. People don't want the autos. They're rare because no one optioned autos because no one wanted it. People still don't want it. And you can see autos are going to be like 40% off of a manual car. So stay away from the autos. Just in my opinion, find the cheapest Japanese one with a good service history. Obviously, Japanese cars, their service history isn't going to continue over to America. Like, you know, every traditional car, you can just look up their service history. It's going to be hard to translate that kind of stuff. So you're going to have to go over, or you're going to have to go off of condition. With these cars, year doesn't really matter. Trim doesn't matter too much. It's really about condition, especially with cars that were built. What you'll see is that cars that were built were just dogged. Like, people drove the crap out of the cars that are built. So even though, you'll find cars with like a huge build list, the quality of the car is actually not going to be that great. That is something you definitely want to take into consideration when you're shopping for a car. The highest priced cars should be saved for the lowest mile chassis combined with the highest quality builds. This is obvious information. However, a lot of people will get hypnotized by that brap brap sound and buy a rusty POS car with a like a half bridged motor for 50 grand and get ripped off. Just make sure that the quality of the car is top notch. That should be the first thing you look at when it comes to these cars. Look at the paint, look at the interior wear. It has leather. Obviously, it's going to wear a little bit more than the cloth seats. The suede is probably going to wear the most in terms of just having the most wear visually. You just want to make sure that everything is in good order. Exactly. OEM Plus is my favorite. That's my favorite way of how to get a car. Like literally OEM Plus for me is just like an exhaust. You space out the wheels, lower the car, maybe black out some of the amber lights, get some tint. That's OEM Plus, and it's amazing. But yeah, those would be the best examples of RX-7s. Find one. The best examples for value, at least, are going to be the most stock examples. OEM Plus are going to be obviously a little bit less valuable than a completely stock car. However, OEM Plus is really what I'd say a lot of people, maybe even the majority, want to end up as. So buying an OEM Plus customized RX-7 isn't necessarily a bad idea. I would recommend staying away from the fully custom ones unless you understand what you're getting into. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. As I mentioned before, RX-7 definitely the best looking out of the old school Japanese Halo cars. The biggest problem is going to be that rotary motor. It's not an issue with the motor itself. It's mainly for maintenance and people not understanding how they work when compared to a traditional piston engine. When you're buying these cars, just make sure you find one from an owner that knows about rotary cars. You don't want to find one guy that doesn't even know that rotaries burn oil. You're just going to end up with a basket case of an engine in the future. Yeah, that wraps it up for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Shout out to the 5 people in the chat. Shout out to Claro and DJ Inferno for participating. Claro, shout out to you, man. And DJ Inferno, shout out to you as well. Just abuse out the ass. Exactly. I will see you guys tomorrow with another one. I'm going to be doing the NSX, but I'm not going to be doing the fixed headlight NSXs. I'm just going to be doing the pop-up headlights because the fixed headlight ones, the facelifted NSXs, are just way too expensive. They're in a whole nother league compared to the first NSXs. So we're going to be going over both Acura and Honda. So I'm talking right-hand drive and left-hand drive NSXs tomorrow. And then on Friday, I believe I'm deciding between the Mitsubishi 3000 GT or like an Evo 8, Evo 9 show. So I'll see you guys with, hey, shout out to you, Clean Whips, as well. Again, shout out to the 5 viewers in the chat. It's crazy because I remember, like, you know, for the first 30 episodes, I was streaming to like 1 or 2 people. And, you know, it's slowly starting to exponentially build up. We're at 5. This is really the most I've had. And I'm not even streaming on Twitch today. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, something was wrong with Streamlabs. So this is pretty amazing. Shout out to all of you guys for supporting. I will see you guys tomorrow at noon with the NSX Buyer's Guide. Have a great rest of your day as always. Be safe. Have a good one.